No. Of an interview conducted on February 8th, turned over to council on February 8th. I'm showing a copy of that to council now concerning the testimony, proposed testimony of Officer Benjamin Jones. He was the officer who was on patrol the night that Steve Schwab got the dog, found Nicole's dog, and called animal shelter for him. We had not previously been able to identify him. He came forward when he heard about the incident testified to by Stephen Schwab, realizing that it was him. We have the police report. It has been forwarded to council, and we would like to call him as a witness at the conclusion of Officer Riske's testimony.
All right, we'll allow defense counsel the opportunity to review the report, and then we'll take it up at that time.
Yes.
Well, it was faxed to council yesterday, so they should have their own copy.
We haven't seen it, but, Your Honor, this obviously, I'm confused. This was an officer who did this on June 12th, 1994. We're getting the report yesterday. But we'll take it up afterwards. Let's see what crosses the line.
Okay, can I have my copy? Okay.
All right, anything else before
I'll
we
get some
invite the
more.
jurors to rejoin us?
That's it, Your Honor.
All right, now I've lost all my staff. All right, let's have the jury, please. All right, let the record reflect. We've now been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Officer Robert Riske is still on the witness stand under cross-examination. Officer Riske, you're reminded that you were still under oath. And Mr. Cochran, you may continue your cross-examination.
So that we can see the jury in the conversation.
Please. We'll just pile them up here. However. Is that clear enough, Mr. Douglas?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Cochran.
Thank you very kindly. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Officer Riske, sir. When we broke at lunch, we were talking about ice cream. And since that date that you were out there on June 13th, 1994, have you ever seen any photographs of the ice cream or the spoon on the floor right below the ice cream?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever had occasion to see the cup, the Ben and Jerry's cup that the ice cream was in?
No, sir, I didn't.
And when you last saw this melting ice cream and the spoon on the floor, where was it?
Where was the cup?
Yeah, where was the cup?
The
when you
seat on
last
the
saw it?
banister. Still on the banister.
And so when you left that morning at about 7:15 in the morning, it was still in that same position as far as you know, is that
As far
correct?
as I know, yes.
And no officer had retrieved it at that time, is that correct?
No, the last time I saw it, it was still on the banister.
All right. Now, while we're inside the residence, you never at any time saw the photographer take any pictures of these candles that were lit inside either, is that correct?
That's correct.
Will you describe and give us a word picture for the court and jury of these candles? What were these candles and how were they lit?
The bathtub in the master bedroom or in the master bath is a sunken tub.
Yes.
And there's a there's a space to the west towards the alley that's just flat. There was 3 candles and candle holders on that space, and they were lit.
And they were lit and they were still burning when you got there?
That's correct.
Did you or anyone else preserve those candles so that we have those now?
I didn't know.
And again, would I be correct in assuming that you never saw the photographer who was there take any pictures of the candles?
That's correct.
Objection, Your Honor. That's misleading and confusing, whether he saw it or not is
Overruled.
You never saw the photographer take any pictures of those candles, right?
That's correct.
Since that time, you've not seen any pictures of those candles, have you?
That's correct.
objection suits back on evidence.
Overruled.
Did you see any candles anyplace else in the residence that were burning?
I really don't recall seeing any.
All right. Now, you've described on a couple of occasions that the place did not appear to you to be ransacked. And would I be correct in assuming that was the first time you've ever been inside that location?
That's correct.
Do you know whether or not there was any very expensive vases or anything of that nature that had been in there before
I really have no idea.
that could have been taken? You don't know that, do you?
No, I don't.
So since that's the first time that you've ever been there, you just didn't see anything that appeared to be out of order. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But so that we're clear, when you finally gained entrance, you walked up the side of the bodies, so it would be to the south of where the bodies would be. The front door of this residence was open. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And at some point, you described for us that you went inside the house. Is that correct?
Right.
Now, did you have one of these kind of roving communicators so that you could call from forget what they call them, the rovers? You could make a call to back to West Los Angeles Station?
Yes.
So you could have called your sergeant on your rover if you wanted to, right?
Well, I could have.
All right. And as I recall your testimony, at some point you went inside the residence. Is that correct?
Right.
Were you by yourself at that point?
My partner was on the landing with me.
All right, Officer Terrazas?
Right.
And did you know at that time whether or not this particular phone was equipped with this star 69 feature so you could punch down and get the last number called or the last number?
No, I didn't.
You didn't know?
No.
And prior to you picked up that phone at some point, did you not?
Yes.
And prior to picking up that phone, did anybody dust it for prints at all?
No.
Did you have any gloves on when you touched the phone?
No.
So you just picked it up and used the phone?
That's correct.
And did you have your rover with you when you picked up the phone?
Yes, I did.
And when you used this phone, is that when you called West Los Angeles Station?
Yes, I did.
And you spoke to Sergeant Rossi?
Sergeant Rossi.
And about what time of evening or early morning was that, sir, that you made that call?
I would say 12:20, 12:25.
So it was within a relatively short period of time of your arrival there. Is that
That's
correct? And if this phone had a particular dial component, your calling out would have disturbed that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did any other police officers at that time make any calls on that phone that you
No.
know? Now, at that time, you only the phone was where inside the residence?
It was between the kitchen and the dining room. It was right on the counter.
Okay. And the light, as you went inside this residence, there was light coming out of the residence down toward where these stairs were. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And do you have a photo? Have you seen a photograph today of that, of the front door being open with the light cascading down?
No.
You've not seen that today?
Not with the front door open. I haven't seen a picture of the front door.
All right. But describe then for the jury how wide this front door was open.
It's half, maybe a little more than half.
About halfway open?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, with regard to the front gate, you described for us how Miss Nicole Brown Simpson's legs were under that gate, and we saw a picture of that.
Not under the gate.
Well, close proximity to the gate.
It's under the
fence.
The
Under the
gate
fence.
is on the other side of the walkway.
Under the fence, properly put. And this gate was open, is that correct?
That's right.
And describe again, how far open was it?
It was completely open when we got there.
Like wide open, is that correct?
Yeah.
And on one side of the gate, describe for us how the gate mechanism worked, if you recall. On the side, do you know, was there a buzzer on one side and a handle on the other side?
There was a call box, but I don't know if it was electronic or manual. I really don't know.
All right. While you were there that night, you described for us how in going through the shrubbery, you came up to a call box.
Right.
Did you test that call box while you were there?
No, I didn't.
While you were there up until about 7:15 in the morning, did you see any police officers dust that call box for any prints?
I really don't recall, no.
Did you find out whether or not the call box was operable? That is, by that, did anybody go inside, have the call box pressed, and check it inside to see if it worked?
Not in my presence, no.
Not in your presence?
No.
You didn't do it personally?
No, I didn't.
While you were there, did you see, and I think we saw some pictures this morning, that there was some kind of a handle on both sides of that particular gate that was open, right? Remember a door handle?
Of the rear gate, I don't remember seeing any pictures of the front gate.
All right. Now we'll think back in your mind's eye of the front gate. Do you recall it having handles on the front gate?
I don't recall if it did or not.
You don't recall?
No.
Second one. I want to make sure if we have to
Certainly.
cut these things.
Certainly.
Can we cut the feed? I want to.
Yes.
We'd like to cut feed and put this up, so we don't know if we can. Now, I understand this is plaintiff's 42 for identification. Now, can you look at your monitor there, and you see there appears to be a handle where I'm pointing with the laser disc. Is that on the inside?
That's a call box, sir.
Okay. No, I'm not. No.
I don't think
You can't
he's
see, you
looking
can't
at the arrow, not the.
Call box is to the left where there's an arrow. Is that
Right.
correct? Okay. I want you to look to the right of that particular photograph. You see a door knob?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where the arrow is now located. You
Yes,
see a door
sir.
knob? All right. Did you notice that night?
I did, but I just didn't make any mention of it.
All right. And there were doorknobs on both sides of that.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? And while you were there, did you ever see any police or any police technicians dust those two doorknobs for fingerprints?
No, sir.
And you never did anything with regard to determining how you got that gate open, did you?
No, I didn't.
Now, after you made the initial phone call to Sergeant Rossi, you came back outside, is that correct?
That's correct.
At that point, you had not discovered the children, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you had not discovered the ice cream?
Right.
All right.
Mr. Cochran, do you need this photograph any longer?
No, thank you, Your Honor. Let me take it down, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
And you came back outside,
That's
is that correct? And how long before you went back in the house again?
I would say less than 5 minutes
So in a short period of time, you went back in the house again
Yes,
with
sir.
anyone else or by yourself?
with Officer Wally.
All right, you and Officer Wally went inside the house?
Yes, sir.
And when you went in this second time, what time was it, sir?
I could only guess.
Your best estimate.
12:35, 12:40.
All right, so within a half hour of the time you arrived there, at any rate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and your purpose was to look to see if there were any other victims, any other people inside the residence?
Yes, sir.
And was that when you became aware or formed the opinion, as you stated, that Mr. O.J. Simpson was somehow involved in this?
Yes.
And
Well, actually, when I made an initial phone call.
now you noticed it when you made the first phone call. And you saw some correspondence with Mr. Simpson's name on it?
As a return address, yes.
And this was a letter of some kind?
Just an envelope.
All right. Now, you'd never been to that location before, had you?
Never.
Did you have occasion to check the mail? Was there a name on the mailbox at all that night?
I didn't look at the mailbox. No.
This was the first thing that you saw with the name on it, is that correct?
That's correct.
A letter with the return address to Mr. O.J. Simpson?
That's correct.
In your mind, you thought that that meant he was somehow involved in this?
Well, with the pictures on the wall and the family pictures
All right.
and the letter.
All right, let's talk about that. What pictures on the wall did you see?
There was a lithograph on the north wall of the residence
And what this lithograph was of whom?
of O.J. Simpson, I believe.
In what position? What was he doing?
I believe it was in playing football.
He was wearing a football uniform,
Yes, sir.
wearing number 32?
I really don't recall.
But you recognized him?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what else did you see with regard to Mr.
There was-
O.J. Simpson's photograph?
There were some family photos as you enter the front door. There's like a wall before you get to the dining room, had photos in it.
All right. And what photographs did you see there, sir?
There's just a bunch of photos. I really don't know.
And did you see children in those photographs?
Yes, sir.
Did you see Miss Nicole Brown Simpson in those photographs?
Yes.
Did you see Mr. O.J. Simpson in those photographs?
I seem to recall, but I can't be positive if he was in those photos.
All right. That's your best recollection now.
Yes,
You
sir.
think you saw it. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And this is now, so did you observe this during the first time you went in there and you called Sergeant Rossi?
Yes.
Okay. Did you observe anything else at that point during this first time that you went inside?
No, just the envelope with his name on it by the phone.
All right. Now, then when you came back in 5 minutes or so later with Officer Wally, did you then go inside and upstairs in the unit?
Yes, sir.
Describe this unit for us. Can you tell us how many bedrooms that unit had?
I believe it has 3.
And about, are you pretty good at estimating square footage?
No.
I was going to ask you, how large was this unit?
It's probably maybe 20 by 100. I don't know.
All right. Just your best estimate.
Yeah.
You're only in there with this one couple times, right?
Twice. Actually, 3 times.
All right. So you then, on the second occasion, is that when you went upstairs?
Yes.
And when you went upstairs, you found the 2 juveniles asleep, is that correct?
That's correct.
And at some point they were awakened, is that correct?
That's correct.
This was a young lady and a young man,
Right.
a male and female, is that correct?
Right.
Did you and Officer Wally bring them down at that point during the time of your second encounter into the residence?
Yes.
And of course you took them out the back way, is that correct?
Out the back.
And in going out the back way, the female young lady showed you how to open the garage door.
That's correct.
You're able to get them out that way and leave in the alleyway. Is that correct?
Right.
And so that we're clear, that Jeep that we've been talking about, that's a black Jeep, isn't it? Isn't that black?
I believe it's dark green.
Are you colorblind? Let me
No.
phrase this way. Do you have any problem with colors?
No.
All right. Your recollection is that it's a dark green Jeep?
It's a dark green. It's just a dark color. I think it's dark green,
You think it's dark green? All right.
as far as I recall.
Okay. If you were to see a picture of it, would that help you?
Yes, sir.
All right. photo of the chief on the Elmo and we'll get the number. You're looking at that. Are you able to discern from your monitor the color of that?
No, I'm not.
Just dark. That's all you
Just
can tell.
dark.
All right. Thank you, Vic. People's 52? All right. So when you came outside, were you with Officer, he's bringing it up closer. Does that help you at all with regard to the color?
Not really, no. It's not really well lit.
All right. So you can't tell?
No.
Just dark. Okay. When you came outside with Officer Wally and the two minor children, they were taken to the station by some other police officers?
That's correct.
And did you have any further conversation with either of the minors when you took them downstairs?
No, I didn't.
They then left the scene at some point, is that correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor, before I forget, with regard to the photograph that we showed showing the two doorknobs on both sides of the front gate, I think we printed that out. I think the next exhibit is Defendants 1005. May I mark that D1005, Your Honor?
Yes.
And there's an arrow on that, and also an arrow at the call box. And I'll have that marked by Your Honor's clerk.
Thank you.
Now, inside that location, you also described for us that you saw a tub of water in the bathtub. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you ever touch that water to see whether it was hot or cold?
No,
or
I
whatever?
didn't.
And were there any pictures taken of that water?
I really don't know.
You don't know? You never saw any, did you?
No.
Did you ever...
Objection, Your Honor. There's facts not evidence that this witness has seen the photographs.
Overruled.
Photographs in this case.
Oh,
Could you tell whether or not someone had taken a bath already from that water?
No.
Did you see any children's toys in and around the bathtub?
No.
Do you recall looking for that?
No, I don't.
All right, you just looked and saw some water in there. That was pretty much it. Is that
I
right?
was more worried about having a person in there than toys. I didn't see any, no.
I understand. So your answer is you didn't really look and see, right?
That's correct.
I understand. Now, with regard to the master bedroom that you described for us, there's a master bedroom and a master bathroom. Is that right?
That's correct.
And the bathtub we've been talking about is in the master bedroom, right? Or off
The
from it?
master bath.
Okay. Now, with regard to this bed, did the bed look as though somebody had been in that bed that night?
It just, the covers were probably in the middle. I couldn't tell.
All right. It was an unmade bed, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you say the covers were piled in the middle, it wasn't as though the bed was made up, in other words, right?
Right.
Did you make any other phone calls from inside the residence at that time?
No, sir.
And then, did you have a third time in which you went back inside the residence?
Yes.
Is that when you went up on the landing? The third time when you went back, when was that?
The third time I went in with Detective Furman and Phillips.
Is that when you went up on the landing?
I went up on the landing the second time I was in there too.
Okay, so 2 times you went on the landing. is
That's
that right?
correct.
That's when you made the observations. Now, with regard to the time that everyone arrived there, I'm going to show you what purports to be an LAPD crime scene log, which purports to have the time that various individuals were logged into the scene. And I want to see whether or not this will refresh your recollection regarding certain individuals. I'll mark this, if the court pleases, D1006, Your Honor, and I'll show it to counsel.
noted 1006.
Place this before you. It's a 2-page document, Your Honor, D1006. Now, Officer Riske, let's first of all take you and your partner were the first to arrive. That would be Riske and Terrazzo, right?
Terrazas.
And has you arriving at about 12:20 and leaving about 7:15. Is that generally accurate?
That's accurate what it says. That's not accurate what happened.
Okay, but that's what it says on this log, right?
That's correct.
Okay, because you actually arrived at 12:13, right?
That's correct.
All right. Do you know who was keeping this log that night?
I believe it was Officer Cummings.
Okay, and did you yourself sign into this log that night?
No, I signed out. I didn't sign in.
Okay, you never signed in? All right. I want you to look down. Let's see if we can find Phillips and Furman were partners that night, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So what times indicate that Phillips and Furman arrived at the location?
2:10.
That would be 2:10 in the morning?
Yes, sir.
Does that comport with your memory that they were there somewhere after 2 o'clock in the morning hours?
Yes, sir, but I don't know how accurate it is again, because I didn't fill it out.
But the log does say 2:10, right?
Yes, sir.
And that was Officer Cummings' job? Is that
I
correct?
believe so, yes.
And he arrived at the scene within about 10 minutes of the time you arrived, is that right?
That's correct.
All right, so once they arrived at 2:10, Furman and Phillips were then the officers in charge, is that correct?
After we showed them what we had, showed them the crime scene, yes.
All right, because they were the homicide detectives, is that right?
Right.
All right. And then, it's true, is it not, that did Detectives Van Adder and Lang come before you left at 7:15 or 7:20 in the morning?
That's correct.
And when Van Adder and Lang came, they were the ones in charge because they came from robbery homicide downtown, isn't that right?
That's correct.
Do you know about what time they arrived?
No, I don't.
You don't know?
No.
Again, if I might approach again, Your Honor. I'll ask you to take a look at the log and see if this may tend to refresh your recollection for Van Adder.
I'm going to object. There's no foundation here. There's no demonstration of this witness.
No foundation, that's the objection, correct? You can use anything to refresh recollection.
I'm not, that's not the basis of my objection. My objection.
All right, let me see it sidebar. All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Cochran, proceed.
Thank you very kindly, Your Honor. I want you to, by the way, let me ask you one other question. You were present when officers Van Adder and Lang came, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you knew they were from robbery homicide, did you not?
I was told they were from robbery homicide.
Okay. Who told you that?
I believe before they got there, Furman told me they were coming to take over the case.
All right. And you knew Furman before that particular evening. You worked in the same division with him, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And so what I want you to do now is to take a look at defendants 1006 for identification, and I want to ask you whether or not a review of the times logged by Officer Cummings refreshes your recollection of the approximate times that Van Adder and Lang arrived in the early morning hours on June 13th, 1994.
Well, I can tell you what time it says, but I was in the back when they got there. I don't know how long they were up front.
Okay. Would it be correct, and well, without telling us what it says, would you agree that they arrived sometime after 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, sir.
All right. And at that time, from the time they arrived after 4 o'clock in the morning, they were then the ones in charge of this investigation. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yes, sir.
All right. Now, you mentioned that you'd had this conversation with Detective Furman, and you knew him before that night. Is that correct?
I had seen him. I didn't know him personally.
All right. You'd never been on a particular homicide scene where you'd been the investigator?
No.
Had you ever spoken to him before?
Just in passing.
when you were inside the residence at some point, you and Furman were inside the residence, weren't you talking?
Yes.
In fact, you were in the back talking where the ice cream was?
No, we're in the kitchen.
Well, the kitchen's not too far from where the ice cream was on the landing. Isn't that correct?
50 feet, maybe, I don't know.
All right, about 50 feet? All right. But at some point, the two of you were back by the ice cream also, weren't you?
Just when we entered the residence together.
Okay, when you came back in the back way.
Right.
All right. And when you were in there talking, did you talk about, did the subject matter of O.J. Simpson come up in the conversation?
No.
You two of you never discussed that?
No, we
At
didn't.
that time? Now, at any time while you were inside, in any of the three times that you were inside this location, did you ever at any time see this photographer inside the location?
No, I didn't.
You never saw him take any pictures, did you?
Not inside, no.
Now, with regard to this crime scene, without putting the photographs back up, from the sidewalk to where Miss Nicole Brown Simpson's body was located, would you agree that that was approximately 10 to 12 feet, that general area?
Seems like it'd be a little farther.
All right, well, give us your best estimate.
15, 20 feet.
You placed it somewhere 15 to 20 feet?
Yes, sir.
It's from the sidewalk to where she was located, is that correct?
Yes.
And from the front of that property, sir, to the back, all the way to that back gate, can you give us an estimate of how many feet that would be?
I'd only be guessing. I don't know.
Well, you told us how many times you walked this, and we want to get your best estimate. Not a guess, your best estimate, sir.
130 feet, 140 feet.
All right, if I were to tell you that it was more like about 160 feet, would you agree with that?
I don't know. I didn't pace it off. I don't know.
All right, so let's assume it's 150 to 160 feet.
Objection. No. Seems that's not evidence. No
So
foundation.
I asked him to assume that.
Overall, it's a
Thank you.
hypothetical question.
All right.
But I think we need a little, hold on.
All right.
I think we need a little, from where to where, the sidewalk to
All
the
right.
mid-alley,
Yes, Your Honor.
where's the property line? What are we talking about here?
Certainly, Your Honor. Assume from that front gate, near where the body was found, female body was found, to the rear gate. That's the distance we're talking about. Would you put that in the area of, you said, 130, 140 feet, something like that?
It seems a little long, but if you say so.
Well, no. I want your best estimate.
From gate to gate, I would estimate 120 maybe.
120 feet? All right. And as I understand, I understand that's just an estimate. In that area, at least in the front part of the gate, there was a lot of blood flowing down toward Bundy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
There's a lot of blood there. Would you agree with
Yes.
that? Okay. As we've seen in the pictures. And going back toward the back gate, in what you call 120 feet, do I understand that what you found was 4 blood drops in this 120 feet? Is that correct? With 1 blood drop out in the alleyway?
I didn't count them. I don't know.
Today you don't know how many there were altogether?
I didn't count them. I don't know.
All right. You don't know how many there were?
No.
All right. But whatever number you had, there was a certain number inside the gate and a certain number outside the gate.
That's
Is that
correct.
Now, when you saw this photographer in the backyard, in the back area there, in the alleyway, taking pictures, it was still dark outside at that point, is that
Right.
correct? Do you know what time the photographer arrived there?
No, I don't.
You have no idea?
No, I don't.
You don't know his name either?
No, I don't.
When you saw him in the back alleyway, what was he taking pictures of?
When I first saw him, he was taking a picture north from Dorothy, north through the alley. I saw him take a couple pictures of the rear of the residence. He took a couple pictures of the vehicles, I believe.
All right, if I can approach again.
Yes.
Let's see if we can look at this together and figure out which one's the photographer. Over here where it says SID photos, would that be an indication that's probably the photographer?
Yes, sir.
And what does it show his name?
Objection, Your Honor.
That's hearsay. He can read it to himself to see if it
Okay.
refreshes
Read
it.
this to yourself and tell me whether or not this refreshes your recollection of the name of the photographer from SID.
I never knew his name. I don't know.
All right, this doesn't refresh your recollection.
No.
All right, do you remember that he had arrived there? About what time he arrived there? You don't know that either?
No, I don't.
What time was it that you saw him in the rear of the location, sir?
It was after I had shown Furman and Phillips the house and came back out.
And what time would that be?
Sometime around 3,
Around 3 o'clock in the morning?
I believe. I'm not positive.
Again, that's your best estimate, around 3 o'clock in the morning? And that's when you saw him taking these pictures in the rear, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, you pointed out in the course of your direct examination that you understood it was very important not to traipse through and track through this particular crime scene, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you described for us on many occasions during Ms. Clark's direct examination the great pains you took not to walk through this blood or any so-called footprints, right?
That's correct.
And because you knew it was very important to try and preserve the integrity of the evidence, is that correct?
That's correct.
You knew that either the detectives or someone of the direction of the detectives, a criminalist, would come out and try to mark these various exhibits, is that correct?
Right.
In fact, you also described for us that at some point you saw some blood on the rear gate of the location there.
Correct.
You described for us, remember that?
Yes.
By the way, you never at any time ever saw the photographer take any pictures of the blood which you claimed you saw on that rear gate, did you?
No, I didn't.
Are you aware that the first pictures taken of that blood was on July?
Fact, not evidence.
Sustained.
Let me phrase it this way, Your Honor. Were you aware of whether or not any photographs were ever taken on June 13th, 1994, of this blood that was supposedly on that rear gate on that date?
No, sir.
Do you know what date they got back out there to take those photographs,
No, I
if
don't.
ever?
Objection, that assumes facts, not evidence.
Oh, he knew.
He said
Were you,
answer will stand.
thank you. Were you present at any time any pictures were taken of the supposed blood on the rear gate?
No.
May I put this exhibit up here?
Which exhibit?
It's the one of the photographs of the rear gate. This, for the record, Your Honor, is 53A. So that we're clear, Officer Riske, these photographs depicted on 53A, you never saw those taken on June 13th, did you?
No, I didn't.
In fact, while you were still out there on June 13th, before you left, have they started hosing down that area yet?
No.
You didn't come back on any date after that, did you?
Just in passing to chase away looky-loos and stuff.
That was during just the course of your patrol duties?
Yes, sir.
And at some point in the course of your patrol duties, after June 13th, you became aware that somebody hosed down this entire area, did you not?
I assume they hosed it down after they were done.
All right. You saw the blood was up at some point, did you not?
Right.
You know when that was, sir?
No, I don't.
You don't?
No.
The photographs Ms. Clark showed you to your left with regard to the exhibits and the supposed blood on the rear gate of Bundy, those were not taken when you were there on June 13th, were they?
Of the gate?
Yes, the gate.
No, sir.
And I see some dark, powdery substance on the rear gate. Your Honor, this is on 53A. You know what that dark coloring is on that gate?
It would be an assumption.
Give us, you're a police officer.
I'd assume it's print dust.
All right, was that print dust on there when you were there that night?
No,
That's something that was put on afterwards, is that correct?
that's correct.
So when you left at 7:15 on June 13th, that print dust wasn't there, was it?
No,
When you were out there on June 13th up to the time that you left at 7:15, you didn't see anybody out with one of these little rulers saying, Los Angeles Police Department, Scientific Investigation Division, Photographic Section, as depicted on 53D. You didn't see that?
no, I didn't.
And as best you can tell in looking at 53A from your vantage point there, those purport to be photographs numbered of the rear gate at Bundy, is that correct?
That's correct.
Have you ever seen any photographs in connection with this case of pictures taken of the front gate at Bundy?
Not specifically of the front gate, no.
Now, as a police officer of some 4 years' experience, you're aware of how photographs are taken sequentially so that the numbers, you try not to mix up the numbers when you're taking photographs. Is that a fair statement? You're trained not to do that?
I don't take pictures with numbers by them. I'm sorry. I don't know.
You have no knowledge of that?
I've seen them take pictures. I've seen a number of evidence, but I have no knowledge of how they do it.
All right. I'd like to, Your Honor, mark another photograph if I can. I'll mark this Defendant's 1007 D1007. I'd like to approach the counsel. I'm going to place the Defendant's 1007 before you. And do you recognize that man depicted in that photograph?
I don't know his name, but I recognize him.
Okay, who is he?
I believe he works for SID.
As a criminalist?
Yes, sir.
With the name Fung, F-U-N-G, ring a bell to you?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see this man, Mr. Dennis Fung, at the crime scene while you were there?
No, I didn't.
He wasn't there when you were there, was he?
No.
And he appears to be in D1007, pointing to an area near the top of the fence. This is the fence that's depicted here on 53A, is that correct?
Top of the gate, yes.
Top of the gate? And you don't know what date this picture, this photograph was taken, do you?
No, I don't.
All right. I next want to mark, Your Honor, if I can, D1008. And I'll show it to counsel. It's a photograph also of a fence on the property.
All right.
I want you to look at this photograph, D1008. It has a number 116, a card with 116 thereon. And I want you to see whether or not you recognize that particular photograph.
Looks like a picture of a gate, but
All right, do you know which gate that is on the property?
I can make an assumption.
Well, no, not an assumption. Do you know which one it is?
Both the gates look the same. I don't know.
All right, how many gates are there altogether?
It's
Sir?
two.
And there's the rear gate, right, we've been talking about?
That's correct.
And where's this other gate?
In the front.
Is one near the front?
Yes.
All right. So can you look at this and tell whether this is in the front or in the rear?
I'd say that one's in the front.
You think this is in the front? All right. Now, if this one's in the front, if D1008 is in the front, do you think it unusual that it has a number 116 on it when you turn and look to your right at 53B, it has a number 116.
Witnesses indicated he has no knowledge of the
Sustained.
number.
Finished. May we
Sustained.
approach, Your Honor? May we approach? May we approach on this?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on. Court reporter has to... All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Cochran.
Thank you, Your Honor. With regard to D 1008, which you've indicated you believe to be number 116 on the front gate, were you present when this photograph was taken?
No.
All right. Describe that at some point, when Detective Phillips and Furman were still in charge, I presume, or at some point that morning, strike the latter part, that Detective Phillips came to you and asked you for directions to the Rockingham residence?
It was either Phillips or Furman. I know Phillips gave me a phone, and one of them asked me directions.
All right, well, let's think back in your mind's eye. Did Furman ever say to you that he'd been to that location before, that morning?
To...
To the Rockingham residence, Mr. O.J. Simpson's
No.
home? Never said that?
No.
All right. This was preparatory to the officers going over to the Rockingham residence?
That's correct.
So by that time, Van Adder and Lang were also present, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Were you aware that Detective Van Adder knew how to get over to that location,
No.
having worked West Los Angeles?
No.
By that time, Van Adder and Lang would then be the ones in charge, isn't that correct?
I assume so, yes.
And once they arrived at the scene?
Right.
So was it your understanding all four of these detectives, Van Adder, Lang, Furman, and Phillips, were going to Rockingham?
That's correct.
And did you see them leave at some point to go to that location?
No. Phillips gave me a phone. That's the last time I saw him.
Now, when Phillips gave you a phone, what kind of phone was this? A cellular phone
It
or
was a
something?
cellular phone.
And it's one of those little handheld cellular phones?
That's correct.
And was that phone owned by the city of Los Angeles?
I don't know. He just gave me a phone and said if he needed anything, he'd call me. That was...
And you don't know where that phone came from?
No.
Did you ever seen it before?
No.
He just handed it to you?
That's correct.
And what time of evening or early morning was that Detective Phillips handed you this cell phone?
It was just before they left. I don't know what time it was.
All right. Was it light yet, sir, at that point?
No, it wasn't.
Still dark, right?
Yes.
Okay. And your understanding was that all four of these detectives were going to leave to go over to Mr. O.J. Simpson's house?
That was my understanding, yes.
Had you shared with them the fact that you saw an envelope with a return address to Mr. Simpson inside the house? Have you told anybody that?
I don't think so, no.
Had any of these officers, other than Furman that you know of, been inside to see the photos on the wall?
Just Phillips. Phillips, myself.
All right. And do you recall having any conversation at all with Van Adder or Lang about where O.J. Simpson lived?
No, I don't.
All right. Now, when Phillips handed you this cellular phone, you kept it in your possession?
That's correct.
Did you ever give it back to him that morning?
Yes, I did.
And what time was that you gave it back to him, sir, if you recall?
It was when he and Furman returned to the scene. I don't know what time it was.
You know what time? You don't know what time that was?
No.
While you had that phone, did you make any phone calls on that cellular phone?
No.
Do you know whether or not Phillips had another phone, a second phone?
I don't know. He just gave me a phone.
Well, when he gave you the phone, he said, call me if you need me?
No, he said, we'll call if we need anything.
He said, we'll call,
That's correct.
meaning the four detectives, one of the four,
Whoever.
would call you back.
That's correct.
Okay. Have you ever seen a log of Detective Phillips's phone calls made that particular morning?
No.
And while you had the phone in your possession, you never made any calls, right?
That's correct.
What time do you think that Detective Phillips returned from the Rockingham residence? At the time you gave him the phone back?
I would estimate sometime around 6:30 in the morning.
About 6:30?
Maybe a little later, I'm not sure.
About how long would you say they were gone?
I'd say a little over an hour.
Would you as you search your memory, do you think that they left somewhere around 5:30 and came back about 6:30 or 6:40?
I'm not positive what time they left, no, sir.
Did you keep the phone on your person at all times during that hour?
It was on the dash of my patrol car, yes.
Was anybody else in the patrol car with you at that time?
My partner was near it, but not in it, no.
Do you know whether or not he used it?
Nobody could have used it. It didn't work.
It didn't work?
No, battery was dead.
It had gone, the battery had gone down
That's
at
correct.
that point? So when you gave the phone, this cellular phone back to Phillips, the battery had gone down. Is that right? Or it was down?
That's correct.
How do you know it was down? You tried to use it?
Because I believe they called, they either had a black and white with them and they used a radio to contact us, or they had another phone. Because I had tried to see if the phone was broken and it wasn't working at all.
So when you tried to use it and it didn't work during that time,
I turned it on to see if they were trying to call us, and it was dead.
you couldn't turn it on?
No.
All right. Your Honor, I want to mark this at this point as defendant's next in order. D 1009. Do you happen to know the number of that particular phone?
No, I don't.
Sure. And I presume you don't know the number of the phone that you had at that
That's
particular
correct.
evening. Now, when you wrote out a report regarding your observations that particular morning, isn't that correct?
I would call it a report, a statement.
Okay, well, you wrote out a statement about your involvement on that particular morning?
Yes.
And in writing that statement out, you tried to be, of course, as accurate as you could? Did you?
I wrote what actions we took. I didn't write all the evidence I saw, no.
All right. The question is, did you try to be as accurate as you could in the report?
Yes, for
All right,
what I wrote.
When you were in the academy, you had occasion to learn how to write reports, did you not?
That's correct.
Okay. And what time, Officer Riske, did you write this report? Do you recall?
So I would say around 4:30.
All right, let me approach, and I'd like to mark this D 1010, Your Honor.
All right, D1010.
D 1010, I'd like to approach it. And I'm going to show you this report. First of all, and ask you if this printing is yours, first of all. Officer Riske. Look at D 1010. Is that yours?
Yes, sir.
And is this printing your printing?
Yes, sir.
And I want to turn it over. There purports to be a signature here.
That's mine.
Is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
And it has a, is that your number as an LAPD officer?
Yes, sir.
West LA Patrol? And 6/13/94, what time is that?
5:15.
And so you wrote this report while you were still at the scene, is that correct?
That's correct.
And where did you write this report? Where were you when you wrote it?
I was in a rear alley, sitting in my car.
All right, were you accompanied by anybody at that point?
My partner, Officer Terrazas.
And he wrote a report also?
Yes.
Did you both write them at the same time?
No.
Who wrote their report first, if you recall?
I believe he did.
Did he proceed first?
Yes.
And is it fresh your recollection that you wrote your report at about 5:15 in the morning?
That's correct.
Now, in this report, you don't in any place in this report indicate that you went inside the residence, used the phone, called Sergeant Rossi, saw an envelope with O.J. Simpson's name, return address thereon, and felt he was in any way involved. You don't mention that, do you?
I don't believe so, no.
All right, do you want to take a look and see?
I don't believe it's in here.
Why don't you read it yourself, first of all, and then ask some questions.
Okay.
Have you read that to yourself?
Yes, sir.
And you don't see anywhere in that report where you mention going in and using Miss Nicole Brown Simpson's phone, do you?
No.
In fact, what you indicate specifically is that, and I'll quote, I then observed bloody footprints on the steps and landing behind victim one. Footprints were headed westbound on the sidewalk between 873 and 875 South Bundy. You wrote that, did you not?
Yes, sir.
I then observed the front door of 875 South Bundy to be standing open. You wrote that, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
My partner and I then backed out and requested a supervisor, additional units, R/A. What does R/A mean?
Rescue ambulance.
So now, when you said you backed out and requested a supervisor, was that Sergeant Rossi? Your
Sergeant
supervisor?
Kuhn.
Sergeant Kuhn? And you didn't write that on there that you went inside and made a call to your immediate
No, I didn't.
supervisor, did you?
No.
Now, you were asked a number of questions about how you put up this yellow tape to secure the scene. You recall that?
That's correct.
And again, that was an effort to try and keep intruders out. Is that correct?
Right.
Police officers, however, were free to come and go inside that scene. Isn't that correct?
No.
They weren't free to come and go?
No.
There weren't a number of police officers who walked inside that scene?
No, there weren't.
And is that during the time you were there?
During the time I was there, right?
You can't speak what happened later, can you?
No.
But while you were there,
Objection made there as opposed to when you left the scene?
overruled. While you were there, when the yellow tape was up, give us the names of the officers who walked inside the residence there, or inside this crime scene, inside the yellow tape area. Should you give us those names?
Just inside the crime scene?
Yes, and who were in and around the area there at the Bundy crime scene.
Well, objection to the next page.
You want inside the tape, inside
Inside the tape.
Your question was compound and
Okay, Your Honor, let me
complex.
make it clear, okay? All right? Thank you. Now, with regard to the crime scene, I want you to tell the court and jury the officers who were given any access inside either the front gate or the back gate or the residence there at Bundy while you were there.
sustained.
All right, can you tell us the names of any officers who were given access to the Bundy crime scene while you were there?
Well, the Bundy crime scene encompasses a large area.
I understand that. So tell me the names of the officers.
I'd have to look at a log or something.
All right, may I approach again, Your Honor,
You may.
with 1006?
Yes.
Place before you D1006, and you can look at this to refresh your recollection, and you can tell the court and jury which officers, if any, were given such access.
There was myself and Officer Terrazas, Sergeant Kuhn, Officer Wally, Officer Glorioso was in the back, Phillips and Furman, Sergeant Rossi, and the detectives.
All right. Anybody else that you can recall at this point?
No.
What about Lieutenant Spangler? Did he come at some point?
He came. Yes, he was in the rear.
All right, so he's a lieutenant. He could get inside, couldn't he?
Yes, sir.
So let's see if we can count them. It would be Riske and Terrazas, 2. Cummings and Sanchez, 4.
Cummings and Sanchez weren't in the crime scene.
Okay, they were not. Okay, Sergeant Kuhn was,
Yes.
3. What about Captain Zeman? He wasn't there?
He was, I believe he was at the tape. That was it. He didn't go across the tape. I saw him at the tape.
Okay. McGowan and Wally.
It's actually McGowan. It's not McGowan.
Okay. McGowan.
Right. He didn't go in the crime scene. Wally did.
Wally did, so 2, 3, 4.
They weren't.
5.
They weren't there.
Okay. 4. What about Hyder and Vasquez?
No, they went to the foot of the alley and took the 2 children to the station.
What about Glorioso?
Glorioso was in the rear.
All right. and then the two detectives?
That's correct.
And then, of course, the other two detectives from robbery homicide.
And Sergeant Rossi. I don't see his name.
Okay, Rossi, okay. And possibly photographer?
Not, well, he went on the grass, if you consider that in the crime scene.
Well, he's in the back taking pictures, wasn't he?
Right,
All right. And then Van Adder and Lang, is that correct?
right.
Can you call any others at this point, sir?
No.
Was there a Captain Gartland from Homicide Detectives who arrived right about 7:20? Did you see him that morning?
I was gone. I left at 7:15.
Okay, so you didn't see Captain Gartland?
No.
Okay. Now, I want to show you now a picture, three pictures I'd like to show counsel and ask you whether or not you can recognize this particular officer. I'll show these three pictures to counsel.
All right, with the court reporter, please.